What is going on, everybody? It's the France, and we're here for unscripted episode number 121 for your May 31st, 2020. We are on the last day of May. We are going to be halfway through the year, and it has been a crazy year for WWE, for wrestling overhaul, AEW as well. From Royal Rumble having ourselves the right winner in the men's and the wrong in the women's. A hell of a revolutionary pay-per-view, a hell of a revolution for AEW to the empty arena era. And the first thing I want to talk about tonight is WWE finally, 2.5 months later, finally, at some tapings, put in a crowd. Did they do it the right way? No, they did it their way. What did WWE do? This past Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, WWE taped Raw, SmackDown, NXT, 205 Live, and main event over Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And in that time, they put plexiglass up, and then they put people in the crowd. So WWE, after weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks go by, that we're sitting there saying, this is just getting nauseating. It sucks. No crowd. John Moxley on the AEW Scrum on last Saturday, after the show was off the air, said it's different, but it's 10 times or 1,000,000 times better than having nobody. Absolutely. So finally, WWE did the right thing and gave us a crowd. Is it the same as having 10, 15,000 people in the arena? No, but it's better than having nobody. WrestleMania should have had a crowd of 20, not a crowd of 0. But why did it take so long for Vince to actually use wrestlers in the crowd? WWE Chairman Vince McMahon reportedly waited so long to use development talent as fans in WWE tapings because he felt like it made the company look bad to have so many people seated inside the closed set performance center during the pandemic. As noted, the WWE NXT trainees were used as crowd members at Monday Night Raw, SmackDown 205 Live main event, as well as NXT itself. It was believed that they would be used for Wednesday's NXT, which they were. This is something that AEW has done on their Wednesday night show every single week, except for like 2 or 3 weeks. Week 2 and 3 of this whole empty arena era, they didn't have any because of certain more restrictions that were put on. But they went to Georgia. They taped an entire month and a half at the Nightmare Factory with the fans, which that was fantastic compared to what you've been getting in WWE. WWE reportedly waited so long to make this same decision because Vince felt like it was a bad look on the company to have so many seated in the Performance Center during a time when social distancing is being recommended by health experts. By the way, keyword, recommended. Not mandatory, recommended. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, according to Paul Davis of Wrestle News, AEW had the advantage of using Daly's Place in Jacksonville, which is an open-air venue. The Performance Center in Orlando is a small building where COVID-19 could spread easily. It was noted that word going around the Performance Center on Monday was that the changes made this week will be the new normal until the company is allowed to bring fans back to the event. Vince is still hoping to have fans back in the crowd in time for SummerSlam in late August. There's still no word yet on the new SummerSlam location, as the show will likely be moved from Boston due to the COVID-related restrictions. And that is that. So, Vince McMahon didn't think it would look bad on the company to have fans there or have people in the crowd, yet you went to the Florida governor to make yourself an essential business. Which one is going to make you look worse? If you would have had performance, you have like hundreds, if not hundreds of talent of the Performance Center trainees that aren't doing anything because they're not on NXT television, they're not being used for live events or anything. They're there, they ain't doing anything, you're paying them to do nothing. I feel bad for the people who were in those crowds because they had to stand. If you watch AEW, they had chairs. They have chairs to sit down on if they want to. Sometimes they're standing up, being excited and everything, but they don't have to stand for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours straight with tapings. the people who were in the crowds at WWE this past Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday were standing for hours. Yes, they might have had a break here or two where they put chairs out for them to sit down, but I'm like, why would you just not leave the chairs? Seriously. If you have to, it's your performance center. Make the chairs so they can't move, so people sit down in the chairs if they want to. There was no fucking reason that you needed to have everybody standing up for 3 hours of Raw, an hour of main events, an hour event of 205 Live, and 2 hours of SmackDown in a day. That's 7 hours of content right there. Would you want to stand 7 hours straight for Raw, SmackDown, for like wrestling content? I don't think so. I mean, look at the last few WrestleManias up until this year. You think people were standing up the entire show? Hell no. They were sitting down in their seats if they got tired, and most likely they did. This was just WWE wanting to make it seem like they were following the book, following the guideline. They didn't want to be saying, hey, look, they're copying AEW. You had the jump on AEW. If you would have did this the first Friday that this all happened, or the next Monday when all this happened, you would have had the jump on AEW because you had 2 shows before they had 1. If you would have had people in those crowds, then everyone would have think, hey, wow, WWE is doing something smart. But no, it comes off as forced, as just WWE trying to catch up with the trends of other companies. It's just so bad that it took them 2.5 months to go, well, one of the biggest reasons our ratings are down, well, 2 of the big reasons. One is because a lot of people are so fucking stupid and watching the news thinking that they're going to get the answers to everything. And 2, who the fuck wants to watch professional wrestling without a crowd? I mean, yes, again, AEW's crowds are small, intimate. They are a lot bigger now because if you do watch the last few episodes, since they went back to Daly's place, they're not just people around the ring. There's actually a few people scattered around the outskirts of Daly's place. You can tell when Jon Moxley makes his entrance because he comes through the crowd every time. And they pan the camera, and there's usually people sitting around scattered. So they're filling up slowly but surely, and hopefully by the end of next month, like June or July, you'll see at least a half a crowd in Daly's place, which would be fantastic. But again, having them there was fine. I don't think the plexiglass thing needs to happen, but that's just WWE. And apparently, this might be something that's permanent even after everything that's gone down. WWE is going to keep the plexiglass because that's what you want to do. You want to take your fan base that your superstars feed off of, or they go down the aisle, slapping hands, Rey Mysterio putting his head to a fan's head who has a mask on, interacting with your crowd. Maybe they want to match it. Maybe they go and they celebrate with the crowd. You're going to take that all away. When all this is said and done, and you're staying with this whole plexiglass thing, and what's the Street Profits going to do? That was their thing, running through the crowd. Vince McMahon just doesn't get this shit. This is something that should have been done a long time ago, and Vince McMahon again just shows his stupidity. It just boggles my mind how stupid Vince McMahon can get. So Vince McMahon, finally, I have a question. I wonder this though, because it was talked about how Vince McMahon was dragged kicking and screaming to change the hard cam to where it is now. Vince McMahon might be saying, "Oh, Vince McMahon waited because he didn't want a bad look on the company." Who's to say Vince McMahon had to be fought with over and over and over again just to get the fans and get fans in the crowd? I mean, we remember that a couple days ago, or last week, I think I talked about it. Well, if I didn't, other people did. Is the fact that WWE put out a survey to select people. I've never gotten any of these surveys. I've signed up to the WWE Network to get notifications. I've never got one of these surveys. But they had in there It's like, what can we do to entice you to come back to watching SmackDown, Raw, NXT, yada yada yada. And one of those was having wrestlers out there as a crowd. Gee, isn't it funny how a week or so after they put that out there, boom, they have fans or people in the crowd as fans. Just amazing how it just goes. Vince McMahon just needs to get with it, or needs to get out. It's that simple. Speaking of this past Tuesday's taping, we had, for the third time since Nia Jax has made her return, a match between Nia Jax and Kairi Sane. What happened the last time Nia Jax and Kairi Sane wrestled? Nia Jax carelessly and viciously took Kairi Sane with no fucking regard for her safety, picked her up and by her hair. She didn't even have a hold of her regularly. By her hair, as Kairi Sane is screaming, "I'm not set," and just throws her into the turnbuckle. Kairi Sane could have been injured severely. Kairi Sane could have been killed. Nia Jax is absolutely a liability. She is careless. Hell, she'll hurt somebody and then go on Twitter and laugh about it. So go on Twitter and say, "Oh well, they must not be. They need to go back to whatever." And it's kind of funny because she actually ripped Ronda Rousey for being unsafe. She ripped Ronda Rousey for being careless and unsafe. Yet she does it again and again and again. Deonna Purrazzo came out earlier this week and defended and said she's never, like any matches she had with Nia Jax, whether it be on Raw or on NXT, she never came out injured. Well, you must be one of the lucky ones, because Bayley, remember when Bayley was walking around with that shoulder, her shoulder in a sling? That was from Nia Jax. Oh, we must not forget the face breaker thing, which they made into a fucking gimmick. And then it went absolutely nowhere. Nia Jax is only in the position where she is because she's related to The Rock. That is it. She has no talent. She can't talk on the fucking mic. She does not give a fuck. She goes out there and gives half-ass efforts, hurting her fellow companions. So, she's having a match with Kairi Sane. She tosses Kairi Sane into, apparently, we haven't seen it yet, we won't see it till tomorrow, but she tosses Kairi Sane into the steel steps, and something goes wrong, and Kairi Sane's head hits the steel step, busting her open. So, Sane was reportedly whipped into the steel steps at ringside and tried to avoid hitting her head on the steps, but it hit them anyway. She was knocked silly and bloodied. According to Dave Meltzer, the Wrestling Observer Radio, and people who witnessed the match, there is no word yet on if Sane suffered another concussion during the spot, but it is noted that she seemed okay. The original report led people to believe that Jax was to blame for the bad bump, but that is apparently, quote-unquote, not the case. According to Meltzer, people who witnessed the bump indeed noted that this was not Jax's fault. Of course they would say that. What else would they fucking say? It's Nia Jax. There was probably the directive on Vince McMahon's board of saying any injury that happens in a Nia Jax match is not Nia Jax's fault. She is not being blamed for what happened. One person described the incident as Sane being in control of her bump, so much that she made it look too good. Another witness said she may have stumbled, took the move wrong, and hit her head on the steps anyway. It was noted that some people were questioning if Sane should have been in action this soon following her passing with Hana Kimura. Sane noted on Twitter that she is trying to get Kimura help as she was posting her final tweets and posted photos of her self-harm last week. It is an interesting to see if WWE has also airs the match as it happened or will edit it out. Of course, I do not trust Kevin Dunn whatsoever. They're going to do everything they can to make it look like Nia Jax did no wrong. Like Nia Jax was not to blame. Kairi Sane is one of the smallest women on the roster. Nia Jax is by far the biggest. Why the fuck are you putting these two women in a match again? Now granted, if you didn't have the two matches beforehand And this was the only match. The only reason this match is happening is because Nia Jax is the #1 contender, and she's going up against Asuka. Kairi Sane and Asuka are still technically a tag team. So she's going to take her frustration on Asuka out on Kairi Sane. Also, on top of that, what she did to Kairi Sane 2 weeks ago, by the time this match happens, where she took Kairi Sane and threw her into a crate. Kairi Sane will probably want to get some revenge. That's the only reason this match is happening. But it's 3 times in about a month and a half. Why are we getting this match again? If you did not have the other 2 matches, then we wouldn't be questioning why is this match happening again. You've done this match twice already. The first match, surprisingly, nothing happened. Surprisingly. The second match, Kairi Sane gets fucking carelessly thrown into a turnbuckle even when she's screaming, "I'm not set." If she gets thrown and hit the wrong way, boom, snap neck, Kairi Sane is dead, and that would have been like, Nia Jax is to blame, she just took the bump wrong. It's time to hold this woman accountable. Like I said, we haven't seen the bump yet, but I don't fucking trust WWE and Kevin Dunn to give us what really fucking happened. They're going to edit it. They might even edit her throwing her into the stairs and cut the camera to where we don't see what happened. That is what I think they're going to do. They're going to show Nia Jax throwing her, but we're going to cut away to a different camera angle to not let us see what happened, so we have to put it up to our interpretation what happened. We'll have to guess, have our own interpretation of what happened. That right there will tell me Nia Jax is to blame, and they're just saying she's not to blame because they can't do it. They can't blame her because she's The Rock's cousin. She's not held accountable for any one of her women she's injured. And she has injured quite a few. I don't have the full list on me. Somebody else has probably got that full list somewhere online. You can probably look it up somewhere. But Nia Jax needs to be held accountable for her actions. If she wasn't related to The Rock, she would have been sent back to NXT or fired 2 years ago, if not sooner than that. Nia Jax, again, careless. She is a liability. She doesn't take her fucking work seriously. She's not a fucking professional wrestler. She is somebody who just goes out there, half-asses whatever the fuck she does. She can't talk on the fucking mic. She's not believable one fucking bit. Asuka has made her look like a fucking chump the last 3 times she's was in her vicinity. And that was twice in 1 week. So tell me again why we should give a fuck about Nia Jax. When 2 weeks ago, they were in the ring, it was Asuka celebrating the fact that she's the women's champion. Nia Jax came out to ruin that, and then Asuka made her look like a fool. Then later on in that night, Asuka again made her look like a fucking chump. And we're supposed to take this shit seriously. We're supposed to take this woman seriously. Then this past Monday, on the Kevin Owens show, what happened? Asuka again beat the bejesus out of Nia Jax, making her look so fucking stupid. And I'm supposed to say, well, this woman's got a chance to win the Raw Women's Championship. Give me a fucking break. Nia Jax is a cancer to this company. When are they going to start blaming her? When she does a move wrong and she paralyzes a talent or possibly kills a talent? Is that when they're going to start blaming her? Or is she always going to be blamed? Like, no blame's going to go on Nia Jax. It's time to start having this woman be accountable for her actions. She needs to go back to the Performance Center and learn how to fucking take care of the other person in the ring. When you're a professional wrestler, one of your major jobs, other than entertaining the crowd, because that's a big job for you to do, is to protect the person you're in the ring with. You protect yourself from self-harm. You protect the other person from being hurt. That is your job. And the fact that this is the second time in less than a month, I believe, that Kairi Sane and Nia Jax are going to have a match, and Kairi Sane ends up injured again. It's time to stop babying Nia Jax. She's a grown-ass woman. She needs to start taking responsibility for her pitiful, careless actions. That's all I got to say about that. Nia Jax is a liability and needs to be cut. They need to cut the fat out of the women's division. Cut the crap out of the women's division, and this women's division will be a little bit better. Trust me. If Nia Jax got cut and she went to AEW, she wouldn't last 2 seconds. They would fire her immediately. They don't have that loyalty to The Rock. The fact that WWE has the loyalty to the Dana Wyatt family is the only reason she's in the position she's in. And just wait till Simone becomes a talent, like a main roster star. They're going to push her more than they push Nia Jax. That's the only thing that's going to save us from suffering from Nia Jax, is when Simone Johnson rises up on the ranks. Hopefully, because The Rock said he's called her a badass at the Performance Center. I believe him when I see it, Dwayne. But when Nia Jax has got to be counting her days, because if Simone is as good as her father says, Nia Jax's days as being a top talent, or like treated as a top talent, will be over, because they're going to push The Rock's daughter well over his cousin. Just saying. Just saying. Let's deviate from Raw and WWE for a minute. Let's go to Impact Wrestling. I don't really watch much of Impact Wrestling anymore. I did back in the day, back in the early 2000s, early 2010s. Well, until Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff, them came in and started taking away everything that was special about TNA/Impact Wrestling and making it into what they thought it should be, WWE Light. They filled Dixie Carter's heads with being this WWE Light. Vince Russo backstage became just a cancer to that company, and they just started falling off, and honestly, I'm surprised they're still around. And if Dixie Carter would have held on to it any longer, I don't think any Impact Wrestling would have lasted. But they got themselves a catch. Deonna Purrazzo, who we all know was signed by WWE, to do basically nothing. They had no plans for her. They kept Deonna Purrazzo away from All In, away from Ring of Honor, away from Impact at the time, away from New Japan, away from everything else that they could have done, away from AEW, only because they didn't want her to go somewhere else. If they had a chance to get Deonna, they were going to get her, and that's what they did. So, this past Tuesday, I don't know if it aired on the show, but I have been following Impact Wrestling for years. But Deonna Purrazzo, a teaser for Deonna Purrazzo was posted on their Twitter account, where she said, "I am virtuosa." Do you even know what that means? Allow me to explain. I express outstanding technical ability. I have a cultivated appreciation of artistic excellence. Unlike the average human, I have been able to declutter my mind and access space previously ignored. To be truly virtuous, I have formulated the perfect equation for success, which I implemented with precision. A unique training that not only lies in technique, but in the movements between, allowing my reactions to not be within the stimulus, but to be within my subconscious knowledge. I am Deonna Purrazzo, the virtuose. So then she quote tweeted that, "See you soon. I'll see you soon at Impact Wrestling." Of course, she wrestled several matches for the company between 2014 and 2017. The thing about Deonna Purrazzo with Impact, though, is that she's not completely signed to them. She is on a per appearance basis, which is the Impact Wrestling's been doing this for at least a decade. They don't sign all talent to contracts. They do per appearances. It saves them a lot of money. But yes, she is going to Impact Wrestling. It doesn't mean that she's going to be with Impact Wrestling for very long. For all we know, she can go to Impact Wrestling, get her feet wet, and then by the time we get to All Out, she's making her debut in AEW. I haven't really seen much of Deonna Purrazzo because, again, WWE did not use her. They had no plans to use her. It's an absolute damn shame. But I've heard the people who have seen her wrestle regularly that she is a hell of a fucking talent, and WWE wasted her. So good on Impact Wrestling getting another talent that WWE was going to just let waste away, and it's great for her. So let's see here. WWE. I know I wasn't going to talk about it anymore, but it's just something that's been coming up a lot. The XFL is not dead yet. Earlier this week, XFL boss Vince McMahon responded to recent claims that he is looking to buy back the league in a new bankruptcy court filing. The Committee of Unsecured Creditors to the XFL recently objected to the bankruptcy filing, claiming Vince was trying to rig the bankruptcy process as a way to buy back the league without fully paying back debtors. Vince dismissed the speculation and said he would not be a bidder for the league. The response for filing from earlier this week labeled the recent claims by the creditors as inflammatory rhetoric and unsubstantial, substandard accusations. Daniel Kaplan of The Athletic also has revealed Vince's full comments from the recent deposition testimony. He had said, and I quote, "I don't know why that's out there making me out to be the bad guy," which, Vince, you're the bad guy. Everything that has happened since the XFL folded, you are the bad guy. I'm going to buy back the XFL for pennies on the dollar. Basically, McMahon said, that helped me move into the direction I'm not going to be a bidder, not going to have anything to do with it. I do hope that someone will pay a lot of money for it, and I do hope that I will survive. While it looks like Vince McMahon won't be a bidder, which I said this before and I'll say it again, until we have a final sale and we have a new owner, I don't buy Vince McMahon's words for a second. This would not be, I'm pretty sure this would not be the first time that I don't have any of this information because it's something like, you have to like try and word it right online and everything, but I'm pretty sure this is not the first time that this would happen if Vince McMahon ended up buying the XFL back without having to pay back debtors. I'm pretty sure other companies have done it too. It's a common practice. There are dozens of potential purchasers currently in active discussion with the XFL Investment Bank. Low-key, according to the filing, The Athletic adds that most potential purchasers have indicated that the potential for a 2021 season is important to them. Based on preliminary feedback, there is a robust market for the debtors' assets, including a number of potentially interested private equity firms and other strategic and financial sponsors, Vince's recent filing said. Hallhan managing partner William Hardy noted in a separate filing that the prospective buyers are looking to generate revenue and further establish the league in a content-starved environment in the spring of 2021 to avoid leaving space out to 2022 that would allow others to potentially act on the opportunity. He also had this. Hallhan also distributed teasers to 235 potential purchasers as of May 25th, and as of the date, 20 potential purchasers had executed non-disclosure agreements and gained access to a date room that contains extensive diligence materials on the league and a date of that date. 6 more potential purchasers were in the process of executing non-disclosure agreements to gain access to the new data room. Furthermore, the XFL has crafted a scenario for potential tournament that would begin in February 2021. In fact, I understand that debtors had modeled for 2021 a made-for-TV 12-week tournament style approach to its business, since the XFL is particularly well-suited for a crowd-free experience that could thrive in the current environment. No, the XFL needs a crowd. If you don't have a crowd for the XFL, it will not survive. XFL needs those live ticket gates. I don't care what anyone says. The NFL, the MLB, the NBA, NHL, all the big major sports can take a year of losses and not be killed. XFL doesn't have that leg to stand on. They don't have a multi-million-dollar TV deal that's going to see them through a hard times like this. If they go to next spring and they can't have a crowd, you might as well just forget about it. Such as in-game audio from players and coaches in live screen sports, wagering information, wrote. The Committee of Creditors wants the sales process to run through to mid-September instead of the early July timeframe that was proposed by McMahon in a concession. Vince agreed to extend the sales process to the first week of August. He warned that any more time would jeopardize a relaunch in 2021. Actually, I think extending it past the July date is probably going to derail a 2021 season anyway. The Delaware Banksman current hearing was scheduled for Wednesday for this week for the dispute between the league and its partner company Alpha Entertainment and the creditors. And I'll let you know after that. Even if the XFL is sold to somebody else, which a lot of people are thinking it's going to be Disney, which, oh God, if it's Disney, that's a 50-50 split on what could happen, because let's think. Disney has bought two major names in the past decade. One being Marvel, one being LucasArts, which got to Star Wars. Marvel, they have done a fantastic job, the best fucking movie franchise of all time. Star Wars, not so much. Star Wars has been an absolute clusterfuck of a series since Disney took over. This is a football league. Disney being the owner of a football league, I just don't see how that would work out for anybody. I couldn't see it being something that you'd want to see. I mean, because Disney now own ESPN, so the games on ESPN, ESPN2, ABC would still happen, so that's a lock. I know they bought most of Fox's assets, but did they buy FS? Did they buy Fox Sports? If not, then honestly, they could just if Disney bought the XFL and they didn't have access to Fox and Fox Sports, the Fox Sports area of TV, you have ESPN, ESPN2, and ABC. There's where your games are going to be, and that would be how the XFL would run. And honestly, that would be fine. Another thing for the XFL is if they did get bought out by Disney or anyone else and they have a 2021 season, I don't think New York's coming back, LA, or Tampa Bay. Why? Because those are three New York was especially in MetLife Stadium, that was a big mistake. I don't know who thought having a team in MetLife Stadium of a young franchise, a young league like the XFL with almost no, a small fan base, was going to be able to fill up anything like they do in Seattle or St. Louis. Seattle, St. Louis are a lock if the XFL is back. The Dragons, the Battlehawks, they've got to come back. Those two were the biggest gates in XFL, and I would love to see that entire bowl at St. Louis, the bowl in St. Louis, actually completely open, the lower and upper deck, and having everything covered. That would be a sight to see. LA, if you're not the Rams, nobody cares about football. If you're LA, it's the Rams or bust. The Chargers, that's why the Chargers couldn't get a fucking crowd. It was always a joke. It was a running joke for the last few years that the Chargers never had a single home game. They had 16 away games because when you went to a game against for the Chargers, you looked up in the stands and almost every seat was filled with away team fans. It's just how it is. Do I want to see the XFL come back? Yes. But here's the thing. Even if this thing is brought back, it's not going to be the same if you don't have Oliver Luck at the helm like he was before Vince McMahon fired him. It's not going to be the same. Oliver Luck put his life and his soul into the XFL. He made the XFL what it was for those 5 weeks that we got. And honestly, whoever would run the show after instead of Oliver Luck is not going to be the same guy, and it's just not going to have that same heart and that same passion as it did before. The XFL, is it going to come back? Let me know in the comment section below what you think. I enjoyed the 5 weeks. I want it to come back if it can come back. It's just I just don't see it being the same, especially if it's Disney. I mean, Disney will put handcuffs on half of the shit that we saw before. We won't see the fact that you could hear the coaches talking to the players the entire thing. We won't hear any of that. You won't have any half the people mic'd up. It will be a shell of what it was this past year with those 5 weeks that we got. Again, I hope the XFL can come back, but I don't really want it to be what I wanted to come back, but I wanted to come back with if Oliver Luck's not involved, then if Oliver Luck's not involved and they can't have fans in the crowd, you might as well just cancel it and hold it off till 2022 if anything else, because having a company, a football league like the XFL, you're gonna lose so much money with the XFL. If you don't have a crowd, then it would be to even keep it running. Let's move back to wrestling in 3, 2, 1. It's time to just get my thoughts on the Undertaker's Last Ride, Chapter 3. Now, before we do that, I am a little miffed because I should be sitting here next week doing the same thing for Chapter 4, but for some reason, WWE, in the grand wisdom, decided that we're going to hold off Chapter 4 until the night of Backlash, which I'm thinking, wait a minute. You have a takeover this Sunday. Why is Chapter 4 not happening during, after takeover? Why? Well, not this Sunday. No, it would be takeover, not this Sunday, but you have so they wanted to be after takeover and after Backlash instead of this week. So there's going to be no review or talk about the Undertaker's Last Ride Chapter 3 next week because there's nothing this week. Now, Undertaker The Last Ride Chapter 3 was all about everything that happened after WrestleMania in 2018 up until the end of 2018, where we had Crown Jewel, where we had that tag team match, DX versus Brothers of Destruction, and how fucking awful it was. But a few things before we get to that. One of the things that was played for laughs a little bit was the fact that the Undertaker's daughter, finally saw him win a match. She, apparently to him, has fallen asleep for a lot of his wins and has only been awake for his losses. Like Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns. Apparently the matches in between that, she was asleep for. So she was surprised to see that Daddy won, and she actually said, I can't believe Daddy won. Because his daughter is very young, so she doesn't know, unless she watches stuff on the network a couple years later, she doesn't know how much of a badass her daddy has been over the last 30 years. Things got funnier when Taker added that now he has to worry about Cena's feelings, which I thought that was funny. He then reveals his daughter usually falls asleep, as I said, during his matches he won, and mainly calls the bouts he's lost. She's like the worst Dead Man fan ever. But that's funny. That is funny. She's like the worst Dead Man fan ever because she doesn't think that her daddy is a winner because he loses when she's awake, but she can't remember when he other than his losses. Something they left out of this episode was the fact that during the Greatest Royal Rumble, leading up to the Greatest Royal Rumble, we got an advertisement originally: Rusev versus The Undertaker. Rusev said something on Twitter, and then all of a sudden it was Chris Jericho versus The Undertaker in a casket match, which was originally a casket match with Rusev. And then all of a sudden, just a week or two before the show, it was switched back to Rusev versus The Undertaker. WWE swept this all under the rug as if it never happened. WWE likes to have revisionist history, and they wanted no mention of this. They had Chris Jericho all over that first episode. I'm not going to say all over it, but they had Chris Jericho at least 2 or 3 times in that first episode talking about The Undertaker and everything. So the fact that they swept this one under the rug made absolutely no sense to me. But of course, WWE doesn't want to show their fuck-ups on Undertaker's... Yeah. This was definitely a missed opportunity because The Undertaker himself admitted that being part of WWE's deal with Saudi Arabia was something he was honored to do. I'm sure he doesn't think about that now. He also wanted to see how fans in Saudi Arabia would react to the quirky gimmick, like the coffin and all the other macabre stuff gimmick he's known for. And Russo replacing now AEW star gets glossed over in just 60 seconds. Maybe the Max had a bigger role before Bulgarian left WWE, and they just decided to scrap it once they realized the Jericho narrative was expected to. But yes, WWE did everything they could. I mean, yes, Chris Jericho had a couple saves because there was a scene or two in the first episode where it's actually Undertaker and Chris Jericho interacting. So they had Chris Jericho talking on there. Everything up until this past year's episode 5, was probably being edited as... It was like every year, like they started this documentary in 2017. It was supposed to be done in 2017. But then everything kept going and we kept snowballing and everything kept going and going and going. And Undertaker just coming back and it's just like, it just kept more film and that's why I have this 5-part docu-series. Now, in 2018, there was Undertaker, I think, his last time in Madison Square Garden. The last match he had in MSG. He remembers headlining Madison Square Garden for what might have been his final time on July 7th of 2018. There he teamed with Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman against Baron Corbin, Elias, and Kevin Owens in a six-man tag main event. I feel bad for Kevin Owens. The match itself palled in comparison to a memorable arrival. When the Undertaker chaperone drove up to the legendary venue, he noticed that it was bathed in purple light. That was Vince McMahon's way of paying tribute to one of his most famous creations. His most famous creation. And it reaffirmed how important Taker had been to the WWE since his debut. It was nice. It was a really good touch. And I, of course, don't live in the New York area. I live in Ohio, so I wouldn't have been able to see that live unless, of course, I wanted to go to New York. And, but seeing because they showed wide shots of it, and you just see the Madison Square Garden completely covered in, like, the lights of Madison Square Garden all purple on what is probably Undertaker's last time in Madison Square Garden. At least I think it was. I don't remember if he was there last year or, last year. I doubt it. But it was a really awesome thing that they did. After the match, Taker made sure to make eye contact with several fans in the audience, something he definitely said he has never done before in his career. He doesn't, he doesn't look around and just make contact with everybody. He just has his match, does his pose, and leaves, because that's the Undertaker gimmick. So for him breaking character over and over just to, signal that this is probably going to be it. He definitely wanted to take a moment to soak it in. He's still not sure if he'll ever work for Madison Square Garden again, and probably not. That match that he had with Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman is probably going to be it for the Undertaker at MSG, which, hell, it is what it is, and it's great. Now, if you ever watched That Kingdom Come, which was a DVD special or a special they did on Triple H in his career at that time, he talked about when him and Stephanie got together. And this was the first time I've ever seen The Undertaker break his character, because he was there in a hood over his head, talking as Mark Calloway, not as the dead man. And this was about 5-6 years ago that I saw That Kingdom Come, which I believe it was still a DVD, but they put it on the network, and that's when I watched it. That was the first time, and they talked about when those two got together, Triple H went to The Undertaker for advice, and Undertaker laid it all out for him. They expanded on that here because Undertaker, much of the Chapter 3 narrative evolves around how much both Triple H and Shawn Michaels had meant to The Undertaker as opponents and as friends away from the ring, which The Undertaker did mention in this last 10 years or so. The best 4 matches he's had at WrestleMania, the best 4 matches he's had as a whole, were the 2 against Shawn and the 2 against Triple H. Undertaker gave him a pep talk, Triple H a pep talk, when he started dating Stephanie. Oh yes, it's true. When Hunter and Stephanie started getting cozy in '99, the game started out the locker room leader and asked him for advice. Should he care about other naysayers, or should he ignore them and keep on going? Taker said something to the effect of, "Screw everybody else and their opinions. You know what you bring to the table. If anybody doesn't like it, that's their problems. That's something you should take with everyone." Now, of course, Triple H in 1999 was not where he was even a year later. He wasn't at main event. He was in the mid card. He wasn't somebody who was already fought to the top. He was getting there. But now you go and you date the boss's daughter, you're going to be looked at as being favoritism. Like, they're going to have so much favoritism going your way, and nobody's going to want to give a damn about what happens to you, because simply you're the boss's daughter's boyfriend, and you're going to have things happen for you that you're going to get opportunities that nobody else is going to get because of who you are and who you're with. That, of course, is what led to the Reign of Terror, too, by the way. That meant a lot to Triple H, and he brought men both closer. They're hardly day-to-day buddies, but they share ultimate respect and know they'd be there for one another if they needed to. Definitely something cool to learn about. just watching these, you learn so much, not just about the Undertaker. You learn about his peers, the people who are around him, who he respects, who he like is grateful for Vince McMahon, Triple H, and it's like. Then came the best part about one of the best parts is the end of an era match, which honestly I think should have been the Undertaker's final match. That end of an era match, he went 20-0. It was a Hell in a Cell. All three men were in the ring: Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and the Undertaker. Triple H versus the Undertaker, Shawn Michaels as a special guest referee. I love that fucking match. I was on the edge of my seat for that match at home watching it. All the false finishes, the super kick into the pedigree for a close 2 count. That one was one of the few times that it really felt like the streak was going to be ending and Triple H was going to take it, which would have made him one of the most angry, hated people in the company at the time. And in the end, Undertaker ended up winning. What was really cool about it is that there is that moment where Undertaker and Triple H and Shawn Michaels are all standing on the stage, and they're all arm in arm together, posing for the crayons. Snapshot. That picture is on a plaque made by Triple H. Triple H went out and made a moment, like a plaque for them, for him and Shawn Michaels. It has a stripe of the referee shirt that Shawn Michaels was wearing. It has pretty sure that is one of his gloves, and then I don't know what the little piece of paper, it looks like it's a piece of paper in this thing, but it has the picture of them with the 20-0 behind them. Classic picture, classic moment. It's hanging in his walls, on his wall, in his gym, by the way. So that is awesome. It was unplanned. That entire moment was real. It was natural. You could tell during the show when that happened, that was a real moment. And I was wishing, because it was built as the end of an era. If Triple H and Undertaker both retired on that night, that would have been the perfect send-off, and that would have been the end of an era that has been around for so long. That is awesome. It is his most. It helps him take and remember what he deems as his most special moment. Is that picture, that plaque from Triple H from that night that Triple H gave him, and one I guess Shawn Michaels one too. Triple H is a very giving guy. I mean, those dinosaur bones in Vince McMahon's office, those were from Triple H a couple years ago for Father's Day, and they are real. They are real. Every time he goes to work out, prepare for a comeback, the dead man is reminded of the moment that validated all the blood, sweat, and tears he struggled to put himself through whenever he thinks back to WrestleMania 27, or 28, my bad. Yeah, 29 is when he faced CM Punk. Which, that was an okay match, but I honestly think that the CM Punk match for Undertaker, it was okay, but it wasn't necessary. They lucked into a storyline for it because that was the year that Paul Bearer died. If that wouldn't have happened, what would they have had for CM Punk what would have been the build for CM Punk versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 29? There wouldn't have been a good build for one. Now, before we get into Crown Jewel, they remember that they had, after the Triple H and Undertaker match at Super Showdown, the original Super Showdown was in Australia, they had the whole entire moment where you had Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Kane, and Undertaker raising each other's hands. Kane and Undertaker attack Shawn Michaels and Triple H, and then Shawn Michaels and Triple H, I think on the next episode of Raw, laying out the challenge for Crown Jewel. Shawn Michaels comes out of retirement, and then we got a video package, I think the week after, from Undertaker and Kane in this supposed to be spooky room, laying out accepting the challenge. We got an outtake from this, where they're talking like they normally would, and Kane was like, "You have 3 words for us. We have 2 words for us. We have 3 words for you." And the Undertaker just sits there and says, "Go fuck yourself." And yeah, Kane just does a crotch chop, and I'm just sitting there laughing. That was hilarious. But it was just so funny. It's like, you see this guy who just, in the serious Undertaker tone, just goes, "Go fuck yourself." And I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? And then you could hear the people in the background laughing about it. Kane smiling. It was all fun. Something else that happened on this show was, of course, we had to talk about Crown Jewel. You could not do this Last Ride documentary between 2017 and 2020 without talking about what everybody in the world agreed, even Triple H, Undertaker, and everyone else. The biggest train wreck of 2018 was the match between DX and the Brothers of Destruction. I did not watch that match. I abstained myself from watching these shows that are from Saudi Arabia, and they are absolutely disgusting. But then all comes crashing down towards the end of the documentary. The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, and Triple H rip lumps out of Crown Jewel. It's like they're admitting the diamonds on that crown had been replaced with nuggets of shit. Nobody goes easy on themselves here. Triple H called the tag match a bad comedy movie, citing this torn pectoral muscle, which happened early on in the match. They made it talk about Kane's mask coming off, all the blown spots between the quartet. Michael was shown saying, I missed by that much between the scenes. Like after the match was over, him and Triple H are in the back, and he says, I missed by that much. Taker calls about a train wreck, which yes, it was. Nobody else in WWE seemed to think it was that awful, but the foursome involved, which of course, do you really think anybody's going to walk up to Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Kane, or The Undertaker and be like, that was just a bad match? No. They're going to kiss up to The Undertaker. They're going to kiss up to Shawn Michaels, Kane, and Triple H. Because Kane, like DX and Brothers of Destruction, because they don't want to seem, they don't want to try and hurt their feelings. But it's for the toughest men that you're ever going to know. Just be honest with them. Now, unfortunately, the reason, and one of the biggest reasons the match was such a train wreck is because while Shawn Michaels has been out of wrestling for about a decade by the time the match happened, for 9 years or so. But Triple H did admit that he was absolutely surprised Shawn Michaels came out of retirement. The fact that Shawn Michaels, who hadn't taken a legit bump in years, is going to come out of retirement, probably have almost no practice, and go in there and still wipe the floor and make everyone else look inferior to him in that match. That was one of those problems. Triple H tearing his pec did not help the match at all. Kane, who really hasn't been wrestling that much either, when you take 4 guys who aren't, like when 3 of them who are on very, very limited schedules and one who just came out of retirement for this one match, it was always going to be a disaster. It was always going to be a disaster. Even if it was in the Performance Center, it was in Madison Square Garden, wherever that match was going to be taking place, it was always going to be a wreck. Undertaker takes responsibility for it. He takes full blame for the Crown Jewel hiccup on his own network documentary. It seemed a little bit harsh, and he put everything that went wrong on his own shoulders. He didn't tear Triple H's pec, and he didn't haul Kane's mask off his head. Yeah, that's something Undertaker's going to do, though. That's what people need to realize, that Undertaker's going to take blame for that, because it's just his character. That's his human character. He's going to take blame. I'm pretty sure Triple H would think the same thing. Shawn Michaels, the same thing. Kane, the same thing. That's what they do. They sat there probably not telling anybody publicly. They probably sat back in the locker room without saying it to anybody else. It was like, man, did I fuck up that match badly. Undertaker is not the only person who probably put all that on his shoulders. Still, Taker knows he wasn't mentally set then. He revealed that he and Michelle McCool were going through some personal problems at home around that time. So he wasn't fully focused on what he hoped could be a career-ending magnum opus to be proud of. Again, 4 guys who were in their late 40s or early 50s, or mid-50s, I don't know how old Kane is, but to have those 4 guys go out there, very limited schedule, and one coming out of retirement who hasn't had a match in 9 years, or 9 or 10 years, or whatever, I think it was 11 years, to think that you're going to go out there and have a magnum opus to be proud of, Taker, I'm sorry, I have to call bullshit on that, because my God, was that not going to happen, and you knew it wasn't going to happen. For those keeping score, that's 2 times alone in 2018 that Taker wanted to end his run, and 2 times that either short or crappy matches stopped him from doing so. Basically, if John Cena's match with Undertaker would have been a 30-minute barn burner of a match that was absolutely the best match that Undertaker has had since Triple H and Hell in a Cell, Undertaker would have never won the Crown Jewel, he would have never won the Greatest Royal Rumble, and he wouldn't be wrestling now. He would have been done right then and there, but the fact that it was a 2-minute match, he just kept going. You just can't be hard on yourself with that, but that's what they do. That's what an athlete is going to do. Now, yeah, the episode number 3 wasn't the best episode so far. The other ones felt like they had a lot more to them. This one, because the first episode was from WrestleMania 33 to WrestleMania 34. Right? No, I'm sorry. Yeah, 33 to 34. Yeah, 33 to 34. From his match with Roman all the way to him. Hold on, no. Like, yeah, the first one was great because it was the match to Roman from for Roman to at Rome to like from on the way to from the Royal Rumble all the way to Roman, and then the next one was from after what happened with him and Roman, how bad that match was, all the way up to his match with John Cena. That was the great. I think episode 2 has been the best one so far. But hey, you can't expect every single episode to be a strong one. The next episode, though, oh boy, this one's going to be interesting because, as we know, 2019 WrestleMania 35, Undertaker did not have a match. This one's going to be the hardest one because he looks like he's going to regret not appearing on WrestleMania 35, which is the first time Undertaker has missed WrestleMania since WrestleMania 2000. Imagine that. Undertaker has not missed a WrestleMania since WrestleMania 2000, which of course is WrestleMania 16. Almost 20 years ago. Almost 20 years ago. Had he not missed WrestleMania 35 and actually missed this year's WrestleMania, it would have been a 20-year gap. That's just crazy. There's also something else that's going to be on here, and they showed what it was, and that is going to be the match with Goldberg, which I stated back when it happened that it should not have happened. That's just crazy. That you still think about that and look back in that. WrestleMania 35 is the first time since WrestleMania 16, WrestleMania 2000 as they dubbed it, is the first time that he's missed a WrestleMania. And the only reason he missed WrestleMania, he's only missed 3 WrestleManias in his entire career since 1991. He missed WrestleMania 10 because of an eye injury, I believe it was. WrestleMania 2000 due to shoulder injury, or I think it was a shoulder injury. And then he missed last year at WrestleMania 35 because reasons. Because they didn't have a match for him. And a lot of people I remember being pissed off the fact that The Undertaker missed WrestleMania 35, but was on Monday Night Raw the next night to kill Elias. So, the Goldberg debacle will be interesting to see what they go over that. He believed he was in the best shape. I cannot wait to see what happens with that in 2 weeks. Right after NXT TakeOver, I haven't really reviewed NXT in over a while because it's just not the old NXT I used to love. It's becoming a WWE shell. It's becoming a shell of Raw and SmackDown week in and week out. They've had some great stuff. That cage fight, that fight pit that they had on Wednesday, I went on my way to watch that. That was some great shit right there. Even the awfully hated Jim Cornette loved that fight pit because it was as close as an MMA fight as you're going to get in WWE. I even asked the WWE Twitter page, I think it was the NXT Twitter page, it's not going to be the only fight pitch you're going to have, right? Because you could do another one, and next time it needs to be on a fucking pay-per-view. But back to the last ride. I'm liking what they're doing with this. We get a backstage look at The Undertaker, what he's been going over the last few years. We also get to hear other things. We get some classic moments in there too. We've seen stuff from his debut years. We've seen stuff from the best part of his time as being a headliner at WrestleMania with his matches with Triple H twice, Shawn Michaels twice, and a couple other ones as well. We get to see the backstage, like him and Triple H's connection, him and Shawn Michaels' connection, how much him and Vince McMahon have an admiration for each other. The Undertaker is definitely when he finally calls it a career, which I hope it's sooner rather than later. I mean, hell, if they're gonna do cinematic matches with him, he could be wrestling. He could have a match. Well, he could have one match every 6 months for the next 5 years and look like the Undertaker. It's that simple. If they just want to do cinematic matches, the Undertaker could be wrestling until he can't walk anymore. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens in episode 4. Because, yeah, missing WrestleMania. I'm pretty sure we'll go over the Boneyard Dogs, which was the Graveyard Dogs, which was the tag team match that him and Roman Reigns had right after Extreme Rules against Shane McMahon and I believe Drew McIntyre, which of course they won. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Of course, I wonder if they got Bill Goldberg for this, because I want to hear his perspective of this match as well, because it was an absolute train wreck. 2 50-plus-year-old guys going out there in 100 and some degree weather trying to have a match was an absolute terrible idea. And WWE is really lucky that The Undertaker did not suffer some kind of concussion or even worse, a broken neck. But I can't wait to see what happens. I know you can't wait to see what happens, but Undertaker The Last Ride will have to be put on hold for another 2 weeks. We won't have the next one till the 7th, apparently, of June, so I will not have that review until the 14th, and then the 21st for the final chapter, which I really hope is them going to be saying that the Undertaker's final match was against AJ Styles. That's where it needed to end. That was a hell of a fucking match, and that's the way his career should end. We'll find out eventually soon. Before I get out of here, we have had a lot of stupid Twitter trolls coming out over the last week. The whole JD debacle against Alexa Bliss this past Monday, which went way overboard, to just people being stupid and using hate. Here's the thing. If you watch somebody on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Twitch, on any social media platform, and you clip something they say, and that's taking it out of context, and you show it to somebody like a Nia Jax or Alexa Bliss, if they're speaking negatively about not just a woman, but like anybody on the WWE roster, AEW roster, Impact roster, any wrestling roster, and you clip that you take that clip and you show them on Twitter just to rise up, to rally them up, to get them to have their fans go after that person, you're a piece of shit and you need to go fuck off. Now, what JD said on Monday, like what JD said when that video clip happened, was not right. The guy apologized for it. Let it go, people. But another thing that needs to happen is like, and it seems to happen a lot with the women too. If somebody is critical of a women's wrestler, and I'm going to be honest right now, I'm not a fan of Alexa Bliss as a singles competitor. I think she's just lazy as hell in the ring. But her work with Nikki Cross has been fucking fantastic. I think what her and Nikki Cross do, they actually have a good chemistry, and they work well together. It hides a lot of Alexa Bliss's weaknesses and allows Nikki's strengths to come out. So it's like her in a tag team is better than her in a singles role. If you clip any of that out of context and give it to her, what's going to happen? You're going to have people coming after me. Here's the thing: going after JD, who, if you want to go after him, fine. That is fine. If you want to shit on this guy in your podcast, you want to shit on the guy in whatever the fuck you do, that is fine. But death threats are unacceptable. We just had Hana Kimura commit suicide because there were people causing her so much grief from cyberbullying. Another thing, last weekend we had the death of a Japanese professional wrestler, which honestly I never heard of one bit until she passed away. That's on me because I don't watch Stardom, but that doesn't excuse people cyberbullying. Anybody who went out of their way to offer condolences to the death of Hana Kimura, and then you turn right around and start threatening someone else's life, or you start harassing that person because you hope harassing this person is going to get you a chance to sleep with Alexa Bliss. Here's a little attempt, people. You don't have a chance. To anybody who is sitting there trying to white knight for Alexa Bliss, Charlotte Flair, Nikki Cross, or any other woman on the WWE roster, you don't have a fucking chance. Grow the fuck up and go move on with your life. That is the damn thing that you need to think about. That is what it is. You have Twitter trolls going out there doing everything they can because they think if they wait night for this person, or they send a video clip or an audio clip out of context to a woman on the women's roster they have a crush on, they might get a chance to sleep with them one day. Again, you don't have a chance. Get over it. Get real. Go find somebody else to actually have a chance with and move on with your fucking life. It's that simple. Be kind. And here's the thing. Here's another thing. Lexi Kaufman, aka Alexa Bliss, is a grown-ass woman. Yes, I know. She's had many problems with her, like mentally. She's had an eating disorder, depression, all that shit. She has friends that she works with that is going to help her in her time of need. She doesn't need your fucking help. Going after somebody, and also going after somebody's family because you think it's the right thing to do, you're a fucking piece of shit. Jada deserves all the hate you can get, but you don't ever go after somebody's family. That's crossing the line. If you got a problem with that, you need to go get some fucking therapy. If you think that going after somebody's family because they did something wrong or they said something that you didn't agree with, that makes you no better than those people who drove Hana Kimura to kill herself. That makes you no better than them. Just be kind to one another. And another thing, this one made me funny. This one was funny too. The very next day, I wake up. I'm looking at Twitter. Natalya Neidhart, the night before, tweeted out a picture of her holding the Raw Women's Championship. And she said something to the effect that she's going to win the triple threat the night before, and go on to win the championship. It's coming home to her. Somebody replied, that's not going to happen because you have no talent. Nothing wrong with that tweet there. Somebody's opinion. Natalya decided to quote tweet that and say, cyberbullying is not welcomed on this thread. Natalya, sweetie, honey, come on. If you're going to chop that up as cyberbullying, that's part of the problem. The floodgates have been opened with the Hana Kimura death and the bullshit that happened with JD, that anything negative said on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, any fucking social media platform, anything that's said negative online is now going to be equated to cyberbullying. That's going a little too far. If somebody just says, hey, I don't think you have any talent, that's not being a cyberbully, that's just someone giving their opinion. Is it right? Probably not. Is it wrong? Probably. But that's their opinion. It's not cyberbullying. It's not like they said, oh, you don't have any talent, go back to go back in the kitchen, you fat cow, or something like that. No. They said it's not gonna happen because you don't have any talent. That's not cyberbullying. Cyberbullying is if they would have threatened you or called you some kind of bad name, called you something, said you don't deserve to be in wrestling anymore because of your this X, Y, and Z. That didn't happen. So people, we need to get back to the point where, yes, people, like there was someone talking to me, I believe that same day. It's like, oh no, over the Hana Kimura thing, that cyberbullying, like, what problem is with cyberbullying, this is one of the biggest problems with cyberbullying. No matter how many people try to stand up and say it needs to end, it will never end. You can't police the internet as much as everyone wants to. There are different laws in different states, in different countries for the internet. It's just so bad that people want to sit there and do that shit. It's just people need to learn when to open their fucking mouth. Like I said before, was what JD said right? No. Was it his opinion? Yes. Was it a joke? Yes. Was it a bad joke? Very much so. Does it deserve death threats to himself and to family? Does it deserve people telling him to rape his mother and go to jail for it because he's a pig? No. That is unacceptable. Nobody, and I repeat, nobody is not, nobody should ever do that. Here's the thing. If you wouldn't talk to your mother, your father, your brother, your sister like that, why are you going to talk to somebody else like that? I don't care if you don't like somebody on a social platform. There's one real simple thing to do. You see a little, especially on Twitter, you see a little drop down arrow? You click the drop down arrow, there's a little circle with a slash through it that says block. Block that person. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. And then guess what? They disappear. All the things that you see about them disappears. Now, back on to what Nexie Kaufman, aka Alexa Bliss, said on Monday when somebody quote tweeted this clip from, it wasn't even recently, I think it was WrestleMania last year when that clip happened. But they decided they're going to stir up the pot. This person decided they're going to stir up the pot because they're Alexa Bliss stan who wants to sleep with her, knowing they're not going to have a chance, but thinking that maybe, just maybe, she'll throw favors their way. If Alexa Bliss would have been, I know she's had anxiety, I know she's had all these mental problems. If Alexa Bliss does the one thing that I just said you should do, click that little drop down button, hit block, and ignore it, it goes away. JD doesn't get no clout. JD doesn't get no people, like, new subscribers, no more word of mouth, and it just goes away. Like, people are saying this guy should be canceled. This guy should be, like, taken off the platforms. First off, you don't know the guy personally. You don't know who he is backstage in his real life. I've heard people who work for him at House of Glory talk all the world of this guy. I've seen so many tweets of people who actually know him personally, who know that that's not the real him. That's just him for what he does on his YouTube channel. Just give it a rest, people. It is what it is. If you don't like it, you move on. You don't listen to him anymore. Just keep your comments to yourself. If you don't like somebody who's spewing shit, if you don't like the President of the United States, you know what? You hit that little arrow button, you go down, you hit block. It's that simple. If you don't like a YouTube personality, you block them. You don't watch their videos. You go on the little drop. I think there's a little drop down thing on YouTube that tells you that you're not interested in seeing this person's channel. That's what you do. If you don't want this person to get any clout, there's this little 3-dot bar. Hold on, let me see something here. Let me find a video on here if I can. There's a little 3-dot bar. It says, don't recommend channel, not interested, report. Yeah, just do the report. Just report or say not interested, and guess what? It goes away. It goes away. Just, people need to just shut the fuck up, mind their own goddamn business. Alexa Bliss took care of it on Monday. Braun Strowman and Sonya Deville, Charlotte Flair, and all her co-workers who have the right to actually come out and defend her took care of it. Anybody who is a Twitter troll or a Alexa Bliss like super fan who thinks that if they go out there and white knight for her, she's going to hit them up and give them a chance, you really, really, really need to get a fucking life. Because it's not going to happen. Again, I'm not saying that what happened was good for JD or good for anybody. But after Monday was over and after Tuesday was over, he gave his apology, she accepted it, people kept on going after it. Just shut the fuck up, move on. Not that hard. I'm only talking about here on Sunday because I just had to say something about it, because it's just like, I've been like, something that I'm pretty sure other podcasters, I'm not doing it for clicks, I'm just doing it because it's something I've just been like, people have been yelling at me, and like, I'm not defending him as a whole, I'm just defending the fact that people are going hard on somebody because of something that they made a joke about, that landed so poorly. He apologized, and nobody seems to let the shit go. Here's an idea. Let it go. If there's anybody out there still trying to make a big deal about it, just let it go. Speaking of letting go, here's another thing. I know this protests and stuff are going on right now. There are two types of protests in this world: silent and silent protests, which I am 100% behind. If you want to sit there and just hold a sign, or just have your head down praying for the person who lost their life because of injustice and stuff, that is fine. But when you start going violently and you start burning down buildings, you start attacking police officers and people who are innocent, you are a petty criminal who should be arrested and thrown in jail because you're no better than the people you are protesting against. Once you step over the line from peaceful to violent, you lose the reason why you are protesting or why you are out there. It goes from, well, this guy died and he shouldn't have, by the hands of cops. We should go out there, have a silent protest, and give you some fucking just band together and show that we are a united nation who will not stand for this shit. Burning down cop buildings, police stations, burning down stores, burning down police cars is not going to solve anything. You're making everything worse. Just band together, arm in arm if you have to, and just be silent. Because that speaks louder than anything else that you're going to do. Think about it. Because here's the thing. If you are protesting for anything and you go from being completely silent and just out there showing that, hey, we stand together strong, to violence and like destroying public property or private property or property at all, you're going to be arrested and you're going to be thrown in jail, and it's your goddamn fault. Do you want to throw your life away because you think, hey, I burned down this store or I burned down this police station, I'm making a difference? No, you're not. Shut the fuck up. Stay silent. Just march with your brothers, your fellow Americans, and show them that you do not stand for this in a peaceful way. If you are peaceful, nothing bad should happen. If you want to get violent, if you end up with a bullet in your arm, it's your own goddamn fault. That's all I'm going to say about that. I've talked enough, an hour and 15 minutes or so. I'm getting out of here. Hit that subscribe button, comment down below, like or dislike this video. Find me on Twitter at The France Club. Find me on twitch.tv/The France Club. And I will see you guys tomorrow for Monday Night Raw. Until then, my name is The France, and I'll see you guys later.